Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. And we're operating under the assumption that Quinn Grimes is going to be there, as he's either going to be on the 1-year balloon payment with the waiving of the trade clause, the no trade clause, or the qualifying offer that gets an implied no trade clause. So basically a 1-year deal. And obviously Jared McCain, UCL tear in the thumb. So before we start today's video, as I'm trying to find a way to get comfortable and I wore the wrong shirt, let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that is trying to stay in contention while understanding that there's some transition in the near future. The Sixers might be able to contend if Joel Embiid and Paul George stay healthy and play like their normal selves. And let me tell you, the stuff that I've heard behind the scenes from media members and people around or outside of the organization about Joel Embiid's situation, not great. But another lost season may force a shift in the franchise to maybe a full rebuild. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. What is your expectations and predictions for the 76ers, Joel Embiid, Paul George, and everything above? Like and subscribe for more content like this, and go check out my work at hoopshype.com. Now, the Philadelphia 76ers window remains both open and quite fragile. Joel Embiid returns, hopefully, from knee surgery, while Paul George tries to rebound at the age of 35. Tyrese Maxey continues his rise as an all-star point guard and leader for this team. They add rookie VJ Edgecombe. Edgecombe. VJ Edgecombe. Right? I'm now doubting myself. Okay? 3 seconds. I was right. It's Edgecombe. I don't know why I was worried. And obviously, we're hoping that Jared McCain, once healthy with the UCL tear, and Quinn Grimes are able to kind of sense a building of the future, even as the present hangs in the balance of health. Now, Kelly Oubre was brought back. Obviously, he had a player option that he picked up. Eric Gordon is back. Andre Drummond, even though they tried to move Drummond and Kelly Oubre, it wasn't something that came to fruition. They have NBA analyst Kyle Lowry, which, Nick Nurse, I love him, and Kyle Lowry is one of his favorites. Justin Edwards was brought back on a 3-year deal, and he's someone who showed great growth last year. I think Trendon Watford is going to be an underrated signing. Johni Broome is another guy who's going to be a backup big for them. I really do like Hunter Salas and Dominic Barlow and Jabari Walker on all their two-ways. And to me, one of the biggest things that when you look at this situation is I think this is a squad that they're going to be able to push, I think, the next generation of players, which is, I'm calling him the next gen, Mr. Quinn Grimes and Jared McCain, as a part of the team's rotation. I know they had originally brought in Ethan Almansa, and then he signed with Real Madrid, so clearly Almansa is not going to be a part of this team. Now, they lost Gerson Yabusele, recouncil. The fourth was waived also. This was a team that went 24-58 last year. Maxey emerged statistically as a top 30 player. I think at least top 40. Jared McCain showed flashes before the knee injury. Quinn Grimes looked great. Look, Embiid was a guy that this past year, it wasn't what we were expecting. Joel Embiid is someone that for most of my career or life watching his career, he only managed 19 games. 19 games this past season. And in those 19 games, 24 points, shot 45% from the field, just under 30% from 3, 8 rebounds, 4.5 assists, just under a block and a steal, or about a steal, a block a game, I mean. And the year before, he had played 39. He's a guy that only 4 times in his career he's played over 60 games, twice over 65 with 66 and 68 in the 21, 20, 22, 23, and then in 21, 22. So obviously that's something that you had to acknowledge. It's a guy who in the past 2 years has only played 58 games. And PG-13, who I guess no longer is PG-13, but Paul George is someone that last year, even when he was healthy before he was shut down for the season, was someone who only averaged 16 points a game. And yeah, his percentages were fine, but he just didn't move. He played 41 games. So yeah, he was a bit more there, but he just all year looked like the nagging of injuries kept him from being able to have a consistent production. And the fan base tuned out. They just look like they don't believe in this team. And the transitional season obviously eroded the confidence in Embiid and if this team can really contend. So the offseason was a mixed bag. I think they want to contend, but they also know that they have to plan for the future. They kept Oubre and Drummond, who they wanted to move, but they had to keep them because they weren't going to get any improvements in free agency. Eric Gordon and Lowry are there for veteran depth, but the real story was VJ Edgecombe being drafted at number 3. Johni Broome at 35. Trendon Watford adds versatility to the front court, but I really think we all can say that this roster screams 2 timelines, which if they can win with Embiid and Paul George, if they're healthy and able to play, but they're also ready to pivot if they aren't. So we're expecting a starting 5 of Tyrese Maxey, Quentin Grimes, who is either going to sign that 1-year balloon payment and waive the no trade clause or the qualifying option and beyond and have an implied no trade clause. Jared McCain's going to be out for the foreseeable future with the UCL tear. And Paul George, Joel Embiid would be the guys you think start. Kyle Lowry, Eric Gordon, Kelly Oubre, Trendon Watford, and Andre Drummond make the second unit, in my opinion. If, as of right now on paper, I think VJ Edgecombe's probably going to push Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon out of that rotation. I think the same thing with Justin Edwards and Johni Broome. But they're all young guys that, you have to keep an eye on. To me, I think Adam Bone is another guy that they really like, and he's going to be someone that is my potential breakout candidate to keep an eye on. He had a really fun run with Turkey in the Eurobasket. Hunter Salas, Jabari Walker, and Dominic Barlow are all great pickups for this team in terms of being really good two-way guys who have NBA potential and are guys that I think might all get converted by the end of the season. And I credit them for being really good at finding those types of guys, which they've shown, especially with Justin Edwards last year. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about the team and their strengths. I think the biggest thing we all know is that obviously Tyrese Maxey's growth as a leader and as an all-star talent is huge. Joel Embiid and Paul George are top-end talents when they're healthy. And I think the upside that you have in VJ Edgecombe and Jared McCain and Quentin Grimes is huge. They have depth in Lowry, Gordon, Oubre. Like, there is a lot of depth on this team, and it in comparison to what it was last year, and especially with a team that, when you look at what they're trying to figure out, I think Tyrese is another guy that he's someone that they could go guard heavy and, focus with him, or he could be a trade asset. I mean, he's 24 years old. He's someone that was an all-star last year in 2024. So to me, I guess, 2 years ago, and was at like a fringe all-NBA level last year. So to me, when you see a team that's able to have that much talent and really not be able to have them consistently on the floor, you can't accurately assess what they're at. I know they brought in Kennedy Chandler and Imani Bates on deals recently, but they're going to be probably Exhibit 10 guys. And we all know the elephant in the room, the health of Embiid and George is highly unreliable. McCain's injury delays the guards' rotation clarity. They're kind of thin at power forward, especially with Yabusele gone and outside of George and Watford. And this locker room's fatigue with yearly injuries and the rumors and the chemistry is probably affecting things. And this is now the second year that Nick Nurse enters under pressure. His defensive schemes worked with Embiid when he was healthy, but the past season's rotations were disjointed due to the injuries, and they have a lot of young talent emerging, and thanks to Nick Nurse's willingness to play them and develop them. But he's going to have to continue to balance bringing on the young guys because they need the young guys to play, but chase wins. And if Embiid can't stay on the floor, Nurse is going to have to shift to a fully youth-driven system. And this is a team that currently they're at $191.8 million at team salaries before Quentin Grimes' contract that he signs is factored in. They're above the luxury tax and they're below the first apron. They're going to be over the first apron of 195.9 or 197, I believe it is, by I think it's like 196 for sure. But they're trying to stay below the second apron. This is a team that has the non-taxpayer mid-level exception of $14.1 million and the biannual exception of $5.1. That probably part of that mid-level exception or all of it's going to go to Quentin Grimes. They have trade exceptions of almost $8 million for KJ Martin and just under $4 million of Caleb Martin. Now, Quentin Grimes could play on the $8.7 million qualifying offer to retain the no trade clause flexibility or sign a balloon payment, probably the full 14, and waive his no trade clause. And Embiid's and Paul George's massive salary dominate their cap sheet. Now, VJ Edgecombe is an explosive two-way guard who could be a small ball wing, but he's really a two-guard who is, I think, personally somewhere between Cason Wallace and Victor Oladipo in terms of an elite athlete with some ball handling ability, kind of has a dominant right hand, weak left hand, and defensive upside. He's a guy who could actually play with McCain, Maxey, and Grimes in theory in a small ball lineup. Like, that would be insanely small. 6'5", Mr. Grimes. McCain's listed at 6'3", but he's probably like 6'2", because like him and I are the same height. Tyrese Maxey is 6'2". That'd be small. Maybe not, but and VJ Edgecombe is like a 6'4". So it'd be an incredibly small lineup. They would have to have Joel as like the center in that, but that could be cool. But the McCain, Maxey, Edgecombe, Grimes could be like the four guys as the core. And I think Johni Broome could be a combo big who has defensive instincts, a little bit of floor spacing, defensibility, and rebounding willingness as a depth piece who could potentially carve out a career as a solid backup. But VJ Edgecombe, Quentin Grimes are all going to be guys who are going to have opportunities to earn minutes immediately with McCain sidelined, and Tyrese Maxey could reach an All-NBA status if he continues his trajectory as a lead guard. And Trendon Watford's a versatile forward who could play multiple spots. I think that's an underrated addition. Now, we said Justin Edwards is another one that I think is everybody's going to be wondering. But the 2023 MVP hasn't played 60-plus games since, what? He won the MVP, right? So he's proved he is valuable when he's healthy, but he needs to stay healthy. And when he is, they remain a contender. If he's not, this season may be the season the organization pivots away from centering its identity around Embiid, as his availability dictates everything. So big picture wise, how far can Philly go? I mean, this is a 50-plus win team if Embiid and Paul George both play 65-plus games. They're a contender if they're healthy in the playoffs. This team might not be a 500 team if Embiid and George are unhealthy and they have to focus just playing Maxey, Edgecombe, and Quentin Grimes, and Jared McCain. Like, history suggests the latter is more likely, in my opinion. So how quickly will VJ Edgecombe adapt? Will Quentin Grimes carry over last year and Jared McCain replicate the success he was having in his rookie year before the injury? What deal does Quentin Grimes take, the qualifying offer or the balloon deal, and how will that affect their cap sheet? And can Embiid and George break their cycle? And is this the final season of an Embiid-centered roster? So I think this is going to be a team, if they're healthy, that pushes 50 wins. And I think it's possible, but I think an East semis run, Eastern Conference Finals run, is hopefully what they're going for if they're healthy. And worst case scenario, it's another tank adjacent year that leads to a full rebuild and just them dismantling this team. So most likely is that this is either a developmental season or they exceed expectations and they're super competitive. So what do you think? What are your expectations? If you made it to the end of the video, let me hear your thoughts in the comments. And is this Embiid's last year as Philly's centerpiece? And what's going to happen? Like, subscribe if you made it to the end of the video. Till next time, guys. Peace out.